Are you struggling with roadblocks as a woman in the challenging and constantly changing world of corporate America? If you feel stuck in your career, you may be holding yourself back and may not even realize it. Prepare to be enlightened by the meaningful discussions here at the No Woman Left Behind podcast. Each week, gather the insight you need to break down those walls of limiting beliefs. Unleash your full potential and unlock the leader within. Listen to raw conversations with corporate women as they share inspiring stories with the purpose of obtaining their dream career and living a truly fulfilling life. Here's your host, Rosie Zelinskas.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the No Woman Left Behind podcast show. I'm Rosie Zelinskas, your podcast host. I am thrilled to bring you a series on negotiating called How to Negotiate in the Corporate World. This is a series of episodes that are dedicated just to negotiating for your job, for your career, and I have a variety of incredible women that are going to help me talk just about negotiating in the corporate world. Today, we're talking to Joie Seldon, and Joy is going to help us understand the emotions that you're feeling behind the negotiation process. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to regulate your emotions during the conversations, and regulating your emotions is a tool for success. We're going to talk about how to use your emotions in the way of communication. We're also going to talk about some tools that she has on how to actually do that. So she walks us through at least a couple of tools where you can calm your body and what to do to ground yourself. And ultimately, we are going to gather some powerful phrases that you can use in your conversations with your manager. So let me tell you a little bit about Joy. Emotional intelligence master trainer and author of Emotions, an Owner's Manual, Joie Seldon has taught thousands of professionals how to advance their careers, manage family dramas, and fulfill ambitions. Her ability to break down the complex world of emotions into easy to understand and actionable concepts and tools brings life-changing results. A former acting and improv teacher, Joy offers a highly accessible and fun approach to harnessing one of the most underutilized and powerful resources we have, our emotions. Stay tuned to this magnificent episode because Joy gives us actionable tools that we can use to harness our emotions in order for us to be able to be powerful, confident, and successful when we go and have conversations with individuals about our career. Stay tuned. Joy, thank you so much for being on the No Woman Left Behind podcast show. I am really excited because this is one of the episodes where we're going to be talking about negotiating for women in the corporate world. I will start by talking about how to regulate our emotions when it comes to negotiating. And I'm thinking specifically, how do you ask for a job? How do you ask for salary? And this conversation is so important. I really want to get to the bottom of how we use our emotions and then what words we can use. So I'll pause there and turn it over to you. Tell me a little bit about how we use our emotions in negotiation.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosie. I love being here on this particular topic, and I love the focus of your podcast because it's really the time of women and for women to be stepping up. And I know in my own journey, I have held back a lot of times, and I wish I had known back in the day what I know now.
Right.
No matter what situation is, whether it's something that's very difficult or it's something that's exciting and positive, we get nervous, we get anxious. We all have our own baggage. We have our history and insecurities, and even the most powerful, amazing people. When you get down and have a private conversation, you find out, you know, we all get nervous about certain situations. And so having agency over your emotions, you really can't stop yourself from feeling a specific emotion. They're going to just come. But where we have the power is in being conscious and self aware. So, self awareness is the foundation. It's the very first thing, stage of emotional intelligence. And so, the more present you are with those emotions, the more choice you have about how you can utilize them to negotiate, to how you're going to speak to somebody, how you're going to receive what it is that they're saying. So the first thing to do is to be grounded and be present with yourself and acknowledging of whatever it is that's going on before you go into the meeting.
Okay.
Mhm.
When you say grounded, let's define grounding a little bit,
Yes.
because a lot of we're talking about individuals in the corporate world.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people are starting to really, there's a ton of self-development out there, but not everybody is aware of what self-development does. Grounding is one thing. So talk to me a little bit about what you mean by being grounded.
Yes. So we're very heady, we humans. We get caught up in our thinking and in our mind. And when you're all up here, all your energy is coming up here. And emotions are energy in motion, and their emotions are actually, each primary emotion is bringing you a very specific message, and it communicates through the body. So
Mm.
when I talk about grounded, I'm talking about bringing energy that normally focuses up around our head, neck, and shoulders, which is why we get tight necks and tight shoulders, right? To bring that energy down into the whole body so that you bring it specifically down into your lower body, to your limbs, to your feet, so that you feel a sense when you do that, that your whole body will relax more. And when you're more relaxed, your brain is thinking in a whole other level. Your creativity, your access to your own intelligence, to your information is much more accessible when you're not tense and when you don't have all that energy that's focused up here, wondering, how am I doing? What are they thinking? What are they saying? When we bring it down into the groundedness, we're actually connected to, I mean, it's a little esoteric to some people, but to the earth. We're
Mhm.
connected to this gravity, to the earth, and the energy flows fully in our body, which allows us to be more present and in a state of flexibility, which is extremely beneficial in a negotiating situation.
Okay. So would you say, I know people talk about just breathing, like is breathing like one way maybe that you can start grounding yourself?
It's one way, and it's not just breathing, it's breathing down into the lower part of your belly. When you do that, you move the diaphragm, which is connected to the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body, and it's a very important aspect of emotion regulation. It has to do with the autonomic nervous system. So I can get into the science if you want, but because there's a lot of neuroscience and biological science that people don't realize that are part of our emotion regulation. And so, yes, deep breathing, but slow breathing. And I advise breathing in and out through the mouth, not through, I mean, in and out through the nose, excuse me, not through the mouth,
Got it.
because that's when you are stimulating the vagus nerve. So breathing through your nose, breathing down into the lower belly, and exhaling slower than you inhale are all aspects of breathing that can help to calm your nervous system and make you more present.
Okay. So if I am a person in the corporate world, a woman in the corporate world, and my intention is to go talk to my manager about being promoted, as an
Mhm.
example, you're saying that my process starts way before I even get into the office with my manager.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's important. First of all, you need to know what is your clear intention. What is it you want out of the meeting? We can say, oh, I want a raise or I want a promotion, but to really sit and think about, what does that mean to you? And what is why do you want that? And what is it that you believe that you can have it? And maybe look at, what do you believe that thinks that you can't have it? Because we have unconscious thoughts going on all the time. And that's part of what gets in our way when we get nervous. And when we get in there, we think, oh, I know I want to raise, but there's a lot that goes on behind that. So I really highly recommend spending some time writing it out, talking it out with someone, or even recording it on your phone, memo, voice memo, or whatever, to get really clear about what your intention is. And then notice what happens in your body when you think about, imagine walking into the room or into that meeting with your manager, and notice what happens. Do you get nervous just thinking about it? So that you can then know how to deal with that. And I could provide some tools about that.
Right. Well, one of the things that I've been saying more lately, but you get to go in there and articulate your worth with massive confidence and conviction, which is kind of what you're saying. The process starts with you really identifying what you want. And I think it's preferable for you to write it out, or like you said, if you don't want to write it out, record it. But what are some feelings do you think that people are starting to feel when they start thinking about this? Because I want this to be a little bit more concrete and actionable. So if I start feeling nervous or anxious, how do I manage that?
Well, nervousness is fear primarily. There may be some other feelings. You might be having some anger about the situation you've been in. You might have some grief or sadness about the loss of what you haven't gotten so far. These are the subtle aspects of emotions that come in. But if you really tune into your body, that's when you can tell what it is, the emotion that's going on. So primarily, nervousness is about fear. And fear's messages: pay attention. Something is happening. If your life is directly threatened, we have fight or flight, fear and anger that's there to help us survive. But we sometimes some people get so nervous going into a negotiation, it's almost as if their life is being threatened. And you have to remind yourself, I'm not going to die from this interaction. And so that you can recognize that that's normal to be nervous, that it is fear, and fear's messages: pay attention. And it's not only paying attention to myself, but we tend to rush in our world. So what are you picking up from that other person? Do they seem open to you? Do they seem like they're kind of closed or guarded? That can influence how you actually speak to them, so that you come in with an attitude that we're equals. And that, because oftentimes the person you're negotiating with, you might think has more power than you. They're higher status, they're your manager, your boss, or what have you, so that you think they have more power. And when you can be present in your body and recognize that this fluttering in my heart or this churning in my stomach is the emotion of fear, then that's where I can give you a tool that has to do, or several tools that has to do with how do you calm the body so that you are now in charge of your emotion rather than the emotion being in charge of you.
Yes, why don't we talk about that? Because I think it's really important for if I'm even like if I'm walking towards my manager's office and I start feeling that, and forget all this stuff, because obviously we talked about this, you prepare. So you come with a list of your accomplishments, your projects, all that stuff.
Right.
If your brain is so busy thinking about all the stuff, the nervousness, the anxiety, the fear, you could forget all that stuff. So let's talk about one or two tools that can help you there.
Yes. Great. And you can do this if it's an in-person meeting. You can slip into the bathroom stall or anywhere else. Because as I said before, the energy comes up around here, and especially fear. Fear is like, I'm on alert. I'm looking for where the danger is. So to bring your energy down into your body, you can literally stand, the power woman stance.
Yes.
With your hands on your hips. You do that, but then circle your hips.
Ooh.
Like a hula hoop, and move your hips around, because what that will do, it will start pulling energy like a spiral down to the lower part of your body. Especially for women, because in society, we're either cut off at the neck or cut off at the waist. Energetically, we're not supposed to be sexual beings. It doesn't mean you're going to go into the negotiation
All
like
sexy.
that, but it's to embody your whole self. And so that if you bring energy down into, and you can even with your mind, because the imagination is quite powerful, to imagine that energy flowing down into your abdomen, into your lower belly, into your sexual organs, and then down into the, excuse me, into the ground. But that movement of your hips, it's called Mula Bandha.
Ooh.
Yeah, Mula Bandha. I spell it Moola Bunda.
Okay.
It might be spelled differently. So that's one tool. The other is one of the favorites of my clients and students, and it's called the three balls technique.
Okay.
And so the first thing you do is you put your attention, and everybody who's listening now can do this along with us, to put your attention on the balls of your feet. So there's a saying in the martial arts, Yi Dao, Shi Dao, where your energy go, where your attention goes, so goes your energy. So you're putting your attention on the balls of your feet. And then you bring your attention to your ovaries. If you were a man, I would say testicles. And I say this because it's very specific. It gives you not just, the abdomen, but it's very specific, and it's feeding energy into your power center. So your attention is on the balls of your feet and on your ovaries, and just notice what's happening as you put that attention there. And then the third place is your eyeballs, and not your whole eye, even just the eyeballs. And just notice how you feel having your focus in these three places. How do you feel? What do you notice?
I feel more energetic.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's energy flowing. And see, fear and excitement are on the same continuum, only fear is contracting and excitement is outward moving. So if you can shift your fear into excitement, then you're feeding energy, fueling energy into your purpose and intention. What I get from a lot of people is, especially if they have conjured up beforehand whatever it is that makes them anxious or nervous, they notice a relaxation. They feel more grounded, is often what I hear from people, and more relaxed. But there's also this flow of energy.
Gosh, Joy, I absolutely love this, especially the hula hoop. Like I was just doing that while I was sitting here, and I can even feel like my my brain kind of calm down a little bit and take away from those thoughts of like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? You know, sometimes I'm a speaker, and I know you are too. And one of the things that I do now is I don't try to rehearse or focus on my speech right before I do the speech, because then it just like I get myself more nervous and things like that. So I just kind of put it away, like, and I pretty much surrender. And it sounds like that's kind of the same thing that you're suggesting right now.
Yes. Yes, right. If you've done your homework, if you've prepared, you've got all that.
Right.
And this is where, learning to trust ourselves is so important for women, I think, especially. But you have all of that. And when you calm the body, because your brain, when you're tense, there's just this alert going out from the amygdala. Well, something's happening. There might be something danger here. The prefrontal cortex, which is your rational mind, where you have access to all your creativity and your ideas, that gets cut off. So it's a one-way street going out. When you calm the body, it sends a message to your brain that says you're safe. You're safe. And so then this works both ways. And then you've got your material. Take notes if you need to. There's nothing wrong with that. But that will help you tremendously, and also help you come across as more confident.
Yes. Okay, so let's progress through the scenario that I had posed. So you know that you have this meeting with your manager, you go to the restroom. Thank goodness we have doors. You could do your hula hoop. Yes. And you feel finally prepared. You walk into your manager's office, you sit down, and it starts coming up again, bubbling up again. What do you do right then and there?
The thing is, feel your feet on the ground.
Okay.
Feel, the three balls technique is great because no one knows what you're doing.
Yes.
And you can even, if you've got notes, you can just put three little circles as a reminder. I tell people put that a post-it on your computer screen, three circles to remind you if you're in a Zoom meeting and you're getting nervous, just to relax.
Got
And
it.
because the more relaxed you are, the more flow is going to happen. And the more you can pay attention and respond to what they're saying,
Yes.
rather than just come in with your stuff and not having it be a conversation.
Right. So I think what I'm hearing you say is be present with the things that your manager's saying. And like you said, you already know all the material. Well, you should have prepared already with all of your projects and your results and all that stuff. So that should be the homework to begin with before you even think about talking to your manager. But I think it's so important to be present and to listen to the person that you're talking to receive whatever they're saying. And, if it's feedback, being able to apply it as well.
Right.
And one of the things that I want to create from these conversations on negotiating are, what are some phrases that you think are powerful that kind of go along with your emotions to exude that confidence? You're talking to your manager, starting to ask for, let's say it's a raise. So what do you say to that?
Well, one of the things is when somebody says something to you and you are feeling nervous, part of the thing is we tend to get rushed when we're nervous. So if you say, let me make sure I understand you exactly what you're saying. I heard you say such and such and such and such. So it's you're in charge of your, what's happening with you. It buys you some time to take in what they've said, especially if they say, well, we're not giving raises right now. Well, let me understand. So you're not giving raises at all? Is there a deadline to this? Is there a time when you are? Why is it that you're not, like you can come up with the different ideas, but if you start by saying back to them what they've said, or if they ask you a question, let me make sure I got the question right, and you repeat it back to them, it buys you some time to allow you to come back into the state of equilibrium, and to create space for you to respond in the optimal way.
And I think when you repeat that phrase, like you said, you kind of give your brain those, even if it's like 5 or 10 seconds while you're repeating the phrase to kind of think about your next question, right? Because you're, like you said, giving your brain a little bit of a reprieve of trying to, I'm thinking of like defend or prove, I think is a better question or a better phrase. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can also say, help me understand. I heard what you just said, but help me understand. That's where sometimes you can actually get into something that's going on in the back of their mind that they haven't articulated, or maybe they're not thinking that needs to be said. But help me, because all right, I hear what you said, that you're not giving raises right now, but help me understand.
I think that's a powerful phrase right there, Joy, because it's important for us to really truly understand what the reasons are. And if they're saying, well, okay, so here's another little bit of a tangent to the same question. What if they say, well, you're not ready yet?
Well, help me understand why. Why is it that you think I'm not ready? Because I want to be ready. Like you can, I think I'm ready, but you tell me why, so that's it. And that's again why when you're more grounded, you can ask more direct questions like that.
And that is, I mean, that will happen too, especially if you're newer in your career and you're trying to get that promotion or the raise, and you might not be ready. And one of the things that I recommend is when you do walk into these meetings, you need to be open to receive that feedback, because if they're telling you that you're not ready, then what you said is perfect, because help me understand why. This is when you still have to stay open, stay present so that you can hear what they say.
Yes, yes, because you're not being defensive. And I do speed coaching for a Silicon Valley company. So I've worked with individual, like these are one-off sessions that they offer employees. So I've worked with people in teams all around the world. And it's often the younger people that are like are ambitious, and
Mhm.
they want to be a manager, they want this, and they're like, and it's like, take a breath sometimes. But if you're going to go in, this is really important for you to not come across as overly arrogant, or there really may be things that you don't know yet and you're not ready for. So exactly what you're saying. And this is where you in the negotiation. So okay, now I understand this. So can we talk about a deadline or a goal or time frame when I can get to this place, and then we can meet again,
Right.
so
I
that
like
you kind of put an anchor out into the future and it's not left just open-ended.
Okay. So now I know that you also talk about how emotions get in the way of communication. Now, you just said that, what did you just say again? I want you to repeat that.
About having them give you a timeline, or
Yes.
having you, so sorry, so help me understand, and then you get more about what they think that you need to do. So okay, great. So can I get your help in, there's different ways to do it. One is like, can we set a time frame on this so that we can not just leave this open ended? You can say that. I mean, be real, right?
Right, right.
And can we maybe put a date to meet again and assess where I'm at? And maybe perhaps you could help me steer me to where I can get earn the skills or learn the skills that I need, that you think I need to make me ready for this.
Okay, so back to emotions get in the way of communication. What if I am like upset and I'm already kind of almost mad that they're telling me that I'm not ready? And
Yes.
what you said is great, but how do you deal with these emotions then? You just go back to the three circles, or what do you do?
Well, it's if, and this is where it's nuanced and where you have to be present in the room and who that relationship is, because you will know something about the person generally that you're going to be negotiating with, meeting with, so that if you know that this person is kind of harsh and hard and like this, it may not be safe for you to feel vulnerable in front of them.
Okay.
But sometimes it's okay to just say, I hear what you're saying, and I have to let you know that I understand what you're saying, but I feel a little upset right now. I
Mm,
feel a little, you don't want to say I'm angry necessarily, but I'm a little upset right now. I feel a little like frustrated is a nice, it's a word. Frustration as often has an aspect of anger in it, but frustration is a milder word,
right.
so that you can say, I feel frustrated. And my experience is, so you're never, if you talk to somebody in a way that says, you're making me angry right now, they're just going to get defensive.
Right.
But if you say, when you said that, I felt a little anger come up, you keep your voice somewhat neutral. And this is where people don't understand that just because you're angry doesn't mean you're going to be aggressive
Right.
or confrontational. You can be angry and let that energy run through you and be calm in your voice and your demeanor.
Yeah, I
And
think that's great. Like, so calming your body, even if you're feeling those emotions. And I like the fact that you said, we're human. You can still be vulnerable, even if your manager is, let's just call him a hard ass, for example. I think it's okay for you to say, you know what, I'm sorry, but I'm feeling, oh, you don't have to apologize, by the way, for your emotions, but I'm feeling a little frustrated right now. And I
yeah,
think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you are vulnerable, that kind of brings their defensiveness down, because they're defending the
yes.
position too. They're defending, the company, whether there's raises or not, or whatever.
Right, right, exactly. It does. When you're more vulnerable, vulnerability can be a real power. I mean, anybody that's read Brene Brown knows
Sure.
that,
Yeah, I love her.
right? Although it's harder, it's easy to read about and harder to do in the
Yes,
moment.
agreed.
And yet I've seen it. I've had clients who have learned how to I had a client who had a boss. She worked directly for the CEO. So it was a smallish company, but it was the first time he had had somebody working directly under him. And she didn't like the way he talked to her. And she was very nervous about it. And she realized she was angry. And then she realized, oh, she's actually got some fear as well. So I taught her the tools. We kind of processed through her fear. She learned the technique. She went in, made an appointment with him. There's something I want to talk to you about. And then one of the things is, in a negotiation, in a meeting, that's one of the things she said is it okay for me to be really honest with you?
I like that. That's going to be a phrase.
Is it okay for me to be truthful with you? You're asking permission, so it shows respect. You're not crossing a boundary, and it makes people more open and more willing when they say yes, and then you're honest. If they start to get defensive, they say, well, you said I could be honest.
Right. Yes.
Right.
I like that.
So she said that, and then she told him how she didn't like the way he talked to her. She felt judgmental and harsh. He actually heard her, shifted the way he interacted with her. When that was out of the way, she realized that there were other aspects of her roles she had too many different things to do, constantly moving from this to that. She wasn't able to do what she thought she was hired to do. She had another conversation. He ended up hiring her an assistant to take over some of her duties and asked her what title she would like and gave her a raise.
Wow.
And all of that came out of starting with getting present with what was really going on emotionally, and then learning how to be calm, even when the nerves were happening in that meeting, and communicating clearly.
I like all that. And in addition to that, she was clear with herself on what she wanted.
Yes.
And then she was clear with him, and it worked.
It worked. And she came to me initially because she was looking for she was going to quit and go somewhere else, and wanted help with her presentation skills, and wanted help with, like how she would present herself. And then she ended up completely transforming her experience in the company she was in.
Wow. And that is all directly related to how you are able to ground yourself and feel those feelings. And would you say the right word is manage or cope? Like, what is the word?
I used to use the word manage all the time because it's not control. You can't control emotions, but it's really about being in dominion.
Oh, in dominion.
That's having dominion.
So tell me a little bit more about that.
You're the queen of your domain.
Okay.
You're the queen of your domain, and your emotions are your subjects. So if you're in your ivory tower and you're not paying any attention to your emotions, after a while, they're going to kind of run amok. They're just going to go wild out there, and then stuff's going to happen, and you're going to go, what? Or you're the kind of dictator, controlling, you can't do that, and you have to do this, and you're trying to suppress your emotions, then they're going to rebel. So it's having a relationship. It's having open house and saying, calm emotion, tell me what's going on with you. And that emotion, the fear, is about paying attention. Anger is about setting boundaries. Grief or sadness is about loss. Joy is about connection. Each of our primary emotions have a kind of core message. Yeah. And when you can stay present with them, they're actually bringing you very vital information with which you can make conscious choices.
Yes, this is so interesting because just recently I attended a TEDx Naperville event here in Naperville, Illinois, and one of the speakers was talking about fear and anxiety and depression and befriending those emotions, because a lot of times, like you were saying, you're in your ivory tower and you're like, fear, anxiety, depression, you're bad, go away. And then they rebel. And she was saying the same thing. And it's true.
Yes. And because if you're trying to suppress them, they're bringing you information. They're trying to help you.
Yes.
It's part of our innate nature as humans. We're hardwired for emotions. It's how we actually connect to each other. That's the thing, ironically, that we share the most purely, is that if you have anger and I have anger, we both know what that is about. but we allow those the languaging and the attitudes and beliefs in society as a whole. Well, that's a negative emotion. Fear, anger, those are negative emotions. Joy and happiness, those are positive, but there's a lot on the negative side. And when you judge it and try to repress it, it's just going to hang around in your body. And if you don't come out with some verbal dysfunction, you're going to come out with some back problems or ulcers or
Yes.
some kind of physical ailment.
I want the listeners to just really hear when Joy says that your emotions are information. Your body is trying to tell you something about the emotions. So Joy, what would my body be trying to tell me if I'm afraid of asking for the raise?
It's there's two parts here. One is the external, was the internal. External, it could be that you have a hard ass boss. And so there's always this projection of what can happen in our thinking, that, oh, I could get fired, or I could be, and it's the unknown. We have a fear, an innate fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that projection on the outside, but on the inside, it may be calling our attention to our history, to the time when, for me, whenever I went to my parents asking for something, I was told no.
Yeah.
No, you can't have it. Go ask your father. No, you can't. Go ask your mother. No. I got a lot of no when I was a kid. And it was very hard for me to ask for something because I assumed I wouldn't get it. So we have all of these experiences, and they're in our unconscious mind. We have like 7,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are automatic. So that's why being present with the emotion, what is my fear coming from? Is it from the outside, or am I just thinking, what am I thinking? What is that thought? Oh, and then they have information, and then but that was then, this is now, I'm not going to die from this. The worst that can happen is they're going to say no.
Right. Well, for me, since you shared, I'm going to share with you. When I was growing up, my parents were both very supportive. They both believed in education a lot. But my dad, when I would come home and I say, "Oh, Dad, I got an A on this test," I'm thinking praise, right? I'm going to get praise. Mm-hmm. Well, why didn't you get an A plus? And he was kind of kidding a little bit, but at the same time, and I've had conversations with him about this as an adult. He, in his mind, was trying to push me to do even more and even better. But as a child, if I'm coming home with an A and you're telling me that it's not good enough because he wanted an A plus, he thought he was helping. And to me, I'm thinking, I guess I'm not doing it good enough.
But my husband went through that exact same experience with his dad. So yes, and that's a thing. And these things happen to us not because our parents are trying to hurt us or harm us in any way. They're really doing the best they can.
Right.
But they're just misguided, and sometimes in the choices they make about that. And so
And by the way, when I first told my dad I graduated from University of Illinois, and I said, "Dad, I got a job. Did you ask for a raise?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So, but again, it's just his way, his way of pushing us. Now, I will say from that, I'm extremely motivated because it was always like, do more, do more, do more. But at the same time, I'm one of those people that can't just sit back and relax and celebrate, because my brain is like, do more, do more, do more.
Well, I was always careful. Don't do that. Don't know. And so I still catch myself. It's like, and I know a lot about motion regulation, and my heart will be pounding, but I have gotten a lot better, of course, over the years at speaking up and going for what I want.
And with that, I think it's a good time tell me a little bit about how you got into this work, because you have your book, which is called Emotions: An Owner's Manual. And I would love to know, how did you become an expert in emotions?
Well, I had an epiphany. I moved to LA, to Hollywood, when I was 20 with dreams of becoming a movie star.
Oh.
I wanted to be an actor because I felt freer on the stage than I did in real life. And I always loved the arts. I had been a ballet dancer, but I, after a few years, I got an agent. I did get some work, but I was broke all the time. I was struggling all the time. I mean, I did everything from cleaning houses to, just like odd jobs. And at one point, I just got so depressed.
Mm.
I was so down, and I'm standing there thinking, I'm hopeless. I don't know what to do. And I heard this voice in the back of my head said that you are not meant to be miserable.
Mm.
And it was kind of like a splash of cold water in my face. And it was like, yeah, and nobody's meant to be miserable. Then why am I?
Right.
And why is my whole family miserable? Because they were all very unhappy family. And I went on a quest. I wanted to know what the truth was about life. And one thing I was always willing to do was feel my emotions fully. I
Mm.
remember even like I'm miserable, but at least I feel something.
Yeah.
I'm not cut off. And so that ability to feel and really going for, let me understand myself as a person. What is it? Why are we here on the planet? And I went through years of study and metaphysics. I got very involved in metaphysics. I read a million books. I went into therapy a couple of times. And the thread that was through that was that I would feel my emotions fully. And I had several epiphanies of by being willing to go into the depth of what felt like a very painful experience, like my shame. I would pop out on the other side, and I would have an epiphany, and I would have a realization and an understanding. And then I quit acting, got back into acting, started teaching. I was teaching acting, and my life was like so much better. I was happily married. I was doing work I loved. And I was like, okay. And then I hear the same voice in the back of my head going, now what? And I went and had a consultation with someone. And she said, well, what do you do better than anybody else in the world? And I thought it was the most intimidating question I'd ever had. And while I'm grappling with that, out of my mouth came, I feel. And I said, oh my God, my name is Joy. I think I'm supposed to teach people how to feel. And that was almost 20 years ago. And it set me on a journey. And then I started formalizing the knowledge that I had from my own experience and my learning. I went back to school. I went to grad school and got a master's in somatic counseling psychology and learned all about the body and brain and sort of integrated all of that, and ultimately came up with this system of teaching. And the core of that is in my book.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Joy. I think that is so beautiful. The fact that you do, or that you said, I feel, is just so beautiful, because I think people are scared of their feelings.
Yes.
And one of the things this cracks me up every time. Whenever you're watching any kind of TV, movie, whatever, and say a parent is like, well, I don't want you to get hurt. And I always think that's just the dumbest thing that people can say, because when you feel and you get hurt, that's how you become a bigger, better person. That's how you grow.
Yes.
And everybody's like, well, I don't want you to get hurt. Well, no, I want you to get hurt, because
You can't avoid it.
yes, you
You
can't.
can't avoid it.
Agreed. And so same thing for women in the corporate world. That fear that you feel,
Yeah.
that anxiety, feel it. Feel
Yes.
it,
Yes.
befriend it, and then do the work to go and have the conversation. But I think your story is absolutely beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
the fact that you now work with people and teach the emotions. And by the way, I know that you have an online course, that
Mm-hmm.
you have a special right now. I think that is amazing for you to actually put this in a course, because people, again, they are afraid to feel their feelings.
Yes, because we have so much in society. We as a species are kind of, I believe, at adolescent level, humanity. There's a lot of reactive stuff, and there's all this languaging and judgment about our emotions. And that's what stops us from feeling, is the judgment we have about the emotion itself. I shouldn't be feeling that. Or if I'm angry, then I'm going to somehow hurt someone. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But it's you're that's when the emotion is controlling you rather than you being in dominion of your emotions. It's very liberating. And I still go through hard times. I have days when I feel really depressed, or I have days when I've been outraged, and life is difficult. I mean, this is being human is very, very complicated, and it's difficult, and we're in a particularly harrowing time right now, although I do think it is an evolutionary process that we're going through right now. And the masculine and feminine energies, and the idea that, the reality that we've been male dominant for so long. And this is not a bash against men. I love men.
Yes.
We need the balance of men and women working synergistically together. And so that's why we need women to step up as women, not as women trying to behave like men do.
Agreed. I absolutely agree with. Now, tell me a little bit more about your course.
The course is, it takes you through the 4 stages or levels of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness, self-management or self-regulation, other or social awareness, and then other management, so to speak, that interaction with other people. But it starts with that foundation of self-awareness. And this is where people can be very afraid to go, because they think, oh, I'm going to learn something about myself I don't want to know. But the truth is, I've never met a soul that didn't have beauty and strength and power and talent and creativity within them. It's that inner dialogue of self-flagellation,
Yeah.
the self-criticism that we carry with us. It's so detrimental. So it gives a lot of education about 7 primary emotions that are in my system. The book is about 4, the cornerstone emotions, but there's 7. And then it takes you through exercises. There's self-reflection exercises, there's tasks, there's Q&A, there's all kinds of things that go on through this process through the evolution, until you get to the point where now I'm grounded in my own knowledge, capability of regulating myself, and now I'm interacting with other people. And how do we do that? How do we have the difficult conversation, etc.?
That's awesome. And then aside from that, I know that you have your 5 steps to prepare for a difficult conversation, which
Yes.
I think is very relevant to everything that we've been talking about. So tell me a little bit about that one.
It's the how we prepare mentally, how we prepare physically, and it's some of what I talked about today. And I take people through a guided visualization. There's a little audio that takes people through a visualization about energetic boundaries. And then how do you prepare in terms of what you're going to say? That idea of asking permission. If you're instigating, say you are the manager, and you're on the other side, and you are going to be negotiating with an employee who's not doing their job right. That's a kind of negotiation. It's not the same as asking for a raise or promotions, that kind of thing, but we're kind of negotiating through life all the time. And so there's ways to have that conversation, and specific example of how we can talk that keeps people feeling safe.
One of my other guests had mentioned something about if you're a manager or even a mentor, and you notice that somebody's maybe not necessarily doing something right, you can always say, I've noticed something about your performance. Is it okay for me to share with you? And, it's kind of similar to what you were just saying. It's a powerful way of asking someone for their permission to share feedback with them.
Exactly. It is so powerful because it shows respect for the person.
Yes.
And as Oprah said on her last day of their 25 years on daily television, the one thing I've learned that's common for everybody is we all want to be seen and we want to be heard.
Yes. And I've heard Oprah say that even like the biggest people, whether it was Jennifer Aniston or Brene Brown or whoever, they always at the end of after the episode, they were like, was that okay? Is that what you were wanting? Like, so
Yes.
everybody wants acceptance.
Yeah, we live in this sort of celebrity culture where
Yeah,
we put celebrities on a pedestal, and they really are human too. And if you
absolutely.
learn
Absolutely.
anything about them, you realize they go through all kinds of pains and traumas and difficulties. And yeah,
Absolutely. Okay, well, I know that the course and the 5 steps to prepare for a difficult conversation are all on your website. So
yes,
your website is going to be right on the episode blog, so everybody can go there.
great.
Okay, Joy, this has been an incredible conversation. I didn't think we were going to dig this deep when it came to emotions. So this is fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, so I do want to ask you, and I know you've already given us a lot of really good information, but could you provide 2 actionable tips that women and people in general can use in their career development?
Yeah, I think the 2 tips that are most important has to do with your recognizing your thoughts and recognizing your body sensations. So the tip is to, whenever something's going on, or you can set a timer a couple of times a day or put a reminder in your calendar to pop up. How are you feeling? Or
Mm,
better yet, what are you feeling? So that's not always, it's good to name the emotion, but even if you just tune into your body, we get so disconnected from our bodies, and you are an embodied being. So just tune in and give a little hug to your body,
uh,
and acknowledge, oh, I'm aware of something in my stomach that is churning. I'm aware of something in my body that's upset. Hello. Say hello to those sensations in your body so that you acknowledge what's actually going on, because that will help you calm down. And the other is um, you can come up with a mantra. We tend to have the same type of critical thought when we're talking about self-criticism or about other people, a repetitive thought. And mine, I discovered this tool when I was an actor and I was going on auditions, and I just felt like I don't really belong here. And so my mantra became, I belong here. And
mm.
every time I would start to feel nervous, I'd say, I belong here. And I started booking work after that. So my tip is to look at what is your repetitive thought, the thing that you tend to think unconsciously. It's so automatic. I'm not capable. I'm not powerful enough. I'm not educated enough. Whatever that yada yada is, it goes on in your brain, and then flip it to a positive, self supportive statement. And whenever you catch yourself being anxious or even recognizing that thought, just use your mantra internally. I am capable. I am powerful. I am worthy. Whatever it is that's going to feed you.
Oh my gosh, those are perfect. So the second one resonates tremendously because I just did a keynote speech on Thursday and I sent out a survey right before the speech. And one of the things that came back was that women don't feel that they're deserving. So I'm going to say that one of the mantras could be for the listeners, I deserve the career of my dreams. I think
Yes.
that would be the perfect mantra because that's what we're all about here.
Yes.
So this is amazing. Okay, Joy, any final words that you would want to leave us with?
Just embrace your emotions. There, people think that joy is the absence of fear and anger and all those others, but joy is the emotion of connection. And
Mm,
when you're connected to all of your emotions, you experience more. You will, I promise you, experience more joy in your life.
that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Joy, for coming on the No Woman Left Behind podcast show. This has been fabulous. So I appreciate you so much.
I've enjoyed it very much, and you're welcome. Thank
All right.
you.
I am blown away with the conversation that I just had with Joy on your emotions and being able to feel your feelings in order to negotiate powerfully in the corporate world. I'm going to recap Joy's 2 tips. Tip number 1 is to recognize your thoughts and emotions. So set a timer throughout the day and think about how are you feeling? What are you feeling so that you can start getting comfortable with your emotions. Tip number 2 is come up with a mantra. She said when she was going out on auditions as an actor, she would walk in and she would maybe feel like she wasn't belonging there. So one of the mantras that she came up with is, I belong here. And I'm going to recommend that if you feel that you don't deserve the career of your dreams, for you to create the mantra that says, I deserve the career of my dreams. I think those are amazing tips that Joy provided. Joy's contact information is going to be on the episode blog. She is also providing us with a free gift that you can find on her website that is the 5 steps to prepare for difficult conversations. I think the information that Joy shared with us was phenomenal. Again, we need to be able to negotiate powerfully and be able to rein in our emotions when we're feeling that fear and that nervousness, but we can definitely do that, and that will empower you to further negotiate in your career. As always, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Let these stories of self-encouragement and professional development serve as a guide in navigating through corporate America in the most practical and fulfilling way possible. Do not forget to subscribe to the show at nowomanleftbehind.com for more content like this. Leave a rating and share it with your friends because we want to make sure that no woman is left behind. Until I see you next time, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.